I saw Disclosure Day last night in Las Vegas, sitting next to George Knapp, which frankly is not a bad way to watch a Steven Spielberg UFO movie. And before I get into my reaction, I want to say something very clearly. Steven Spielberg, he deserves real credit for taking this on because this is not a small subject. If there is actually a non-human presence interacting with humanity, and by that I mean in our skies, in our oceans, with our military, the culture, the lives of experiencers, then we're talking about one of the most important issues in human history, and maybe the most important. For Spielberg, at this stage of his career, to put his reputation, his artistry, and his global reach behind a movie that says the public has a right to know, it's not nothing. He could have made anything. Instead, he chose to return to the subject that helped define his career and help shape how millions of people imagine contact. I respect that. I also respect the intent. The film clearly tries to argue for openness, empathy, and an end to secrecy. Those are values that I share. In fact, they're part of the reason I do these podcasts, Sound, Light, and Frequency, and also Need to Know. Because a lot of critics, you see, are reviewing Disclosure Day, in fact, most all of the critics, as a Spielberg movie. I want to take a look at it as a disclosure movie. And really, those aren't the same thing. As a Spielberg movie, there are things to admire. There are moments of craft, and there are moments of humor, warmth, visual confidence, all of which remind you why Spielberg has been able to shape the public imagination for half a century. Emily Blunt gives the film some real emotional credibility. Josh O'Connor's performance is strong. Coleman Domingo, grounded humanity, of course. Spielberg knows how to do all of this. So yes, there are sequences where the old Spielberg machinery just hums. You feel the camera in exactly the right place. You feel the staging. You feel the audience leaning forward. The title alone raises the stakes, and so did the promotional interviews. Spielberg has not been selling this as pure fantasy. He has said the film is built on a foundation of truth, and that's a major statement. Now, when Steven Spielberg says something like that, it matters. This is not some random filmmaker borrowing flying saucers for a summer popcorn movie. This is the man who made Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is the man whose images of first contact are burned into the global mind. And this is the filmmaker people have long suspected, fairly or unfairly, of having had access, insight, or at least proximity to people who knew more than they were saying. So when Spielberg comes back to the subject now in 2026, in the middle of congressional hearings and whistleblower claims, Navy videos, UAP task forces, these private aerospace rumors, crash retrieval allegations, reverse engineering, and public distrust, well, the question isn't simply, is the movie entertaining? The question is, what is Spielberg saying the truth actually is? And that's where the movie gets paper thin. The premise appears to be that one non-human intelligence has chosen two human beings, both Americans, to become conduits for disclosure. A private contractor called Wardex has been hiding the archives. The government is either compromised, bypassed, or unable to manage this secret, so they've outsourced it. The moral center of the story and the moral choice in the story is that humanity must learn empathy before it can handle contact. Now, that's a perfectly valid Spielbergian fable, but is it an honest reflection of the real disclosure problem? I don't think so. The reviews that have come out this morning are actually helpful here because many critics are praising the film. Some are saying classic Spielberg is back. Some are calling it timely. Some are saying the performances and set pieces carried the day. But even some of the positive reviews are circling to the same issue. This is a movie with big ideas wrapped inside a conventional chase thriller. Too much of Disclosure Day is people running, hiding, driving, decoding, being chased, being cornered, and then being chased again. The security apparatus in Disclosure Day feels like something that can be outrun, and that is a film problem, but it's also a disclosure problem. Because if the movie is going to lean on truth, then the cover-up has to feel like the kind of cover-up that could actually survive generations. The other issue is even larger, though. What about the rest of the phenomenon? If there is disclosure, what exactly is being disclosed? Are we talking about one species or multiple species? Biological beings or artificial intelligence? What about interdimensional entities or time travelers or crypto-terrestrials or spiritual intelligence? Or is it all a deception? Is it about technology? What about the presence in our oceans, a presence in our skies? We see in it, but what does it mean? Something that has been interacting with us for decades and maybe even centuries or even longer. It's a big, big issue. The film kind of gestures at this mystery, but it doesn't really wrestle with it. He says in his interviews, it raises questions. Yeah, but not necessarily the right ones for me. These are my questions. What about abductions? What about missing time? What about these medical procedures? What about implants? What about the nuclear site overflies? What about USOs? What about the pilots who have chased objects they couldn't explain? What about these experiencers who are not chosen messengers, but are traumatized witnesses? What about the reports of huge craft, silent craft, impossible craft, the objects that are coming out of the water, objects that split apart, orbs that merge and vanish, accelerate, and seem to know when they're being observed? What were all of these doing? What are they doing now? Who's inside them? Or is the movie's answer simply, don't worry, this is ultimately about us learning to be kinder? That is where I part company with the film. I don't object to empathy. Empathy is one of Spielberg's great themes. It's one of his greatest gifts as a filmmaker. But empathy without curiosity becomes sentimentality. If non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity for 80 years, then the story isn't about whether we have treated them badly. It's about what has been done to us. This film's emotional posture seems to be humanity must prove itself worthy of contact. Maybe we have not been abducting them. We have not been paralyzing them in their bedrooms. We have not been flying silently over nuclear installations they own. We have not been appearing over their oceans, their cities, their deserts, and their military ranges, and then vanishing without explanation. So when this movie drifts toward the idea that the main disclosure lesson is human humility, I mean, I understand the impulse. I even admire it, but I don't think it's enough. Not now. In 1977, Close Encounters could end at Devil's Tower with music, light, and a door opening. That was enough because it was an invitation to wonder. It was a perfect film for that moment. The government was secretive, but the aliens, they were luminous. The unknown was frightening, but finally benevolent. The universe was mysterious, but ultimately musical. That was 1977. This is 2026. And maybe that's why I left the theater frustrated. I wasn't angry. I'm not really being dismissive. I guess I was just frustrated because I think there is a better, braver, stranger, more unsettling movie hiding inside this movie. A movie about the fact that disclosure may not arrive as a clean revelation. It may arrive as a crisis of trust. And that is what Disclosure Day never quite becomes. It is too busy being a chase film when it should be a reckoning. It's too eager to resolve mystery when it should deepen it. And it's too confident in Spielbergian healing when the real world may require something more uncomfortable. And that would be accountability. So here's my bottom line. If you go to Disclosure Day wanting a well-made Spielberg thriller with strong actors, a few beautiful moments, and an old-fashioned belief that humanity still may have better angels, you'll probably have a good time. But if you go wanting the definitive UFO movie for 2026, you may come away disappointed, like I did.